Good evening. Welcome everybody. Just the standard announcement we have to give: if you have parked in the car park, please make sure you've put your car registration into the tablet. We don't want any of you to be fined whilst you're here tonight with us. Thank you for joining us. We're going to be having a look through the events that happened on that very first Good Friday, the day that Jesus was killed upon a Roman cross, the day that Christians believe changed the world forever. We're going to be having a look together tonight to see if they really are 24 hours that changed the world. The following takes place in AD 30, between 6 p.m. Thursday and 6 p.m. Friday during the Jewish feast of Passover in Jerusalem. Everything you are about to see and hear is what happened in real life. The key players include three men in power.
Pontius Pilate, appointed in AD 26 by the Roman Emperor Tiberius to be governor of Judea and in charge of the Roman army in that region. As usual during the religious festivals, he is staying in Jerusalem together with additional troops to patrol the city to deal with any unrest. He is a ruthless man, hated by the Jews.
Herod Antipas. His father, Herod the Great, was appointed king over the Jews by the Romans, of whom he was a loyal ally. Herod Antipas rules over Galilee, where Jesus had grown up. During the Passover, he is visiting Jerusalem, staying at his palace in the city.
Caiaphas, Jewish high priest since about AD 18. Caiaphas is the highest religious leader in the land and also president of the Sanhedrin in Jerusalem, the supreme Jewish court. Caiaphas collaborates with the Romans and fears anything that would jeopardize the frail stability that exists and would bring down the Jewish nation. Right now, the biggest threat to that is the traveling preacher and miracle worker from Galilee, Jesus of Nazareth.
Three men in prison.
3 criminals are currently held awaiting execution. We only know the name of one of them. His name is Barabbas. He is a terrorist who has been arrested for politically motivated murder.
3 men in peril.
Simon Peter. He is a leader and main spokesman of Jesus' 12 disciples. He had previously been a Galilean fisherman.
John. He was also a fisherman before becoming a disciple of Jesus. He is probably the closest to Jesus out of all the 12 disciples. His family are actually quite well off and known by the upper-class members of society in Jerusalem.
The man that everything revolves around is Jesus of Nazareth, a traveling preacher and miracle worker, accompanied to Jerusalem for the Passover feast by his 12 disciples. He already knows Caiaphas, and the other religious leaders have instigated a plot to silence him, in part because he says he is the Son of God. A plot that is about to come into effect, aided by an insider.
Finally, one traitor.
Judas. Judas was the one appointed to look after the money out of the group of disciples. For some reason, known only to himself, he has decided to betray Jesus to the authorities for 30 pieces of silver.
Thursday, 6 p.m. The 3 prisoners sit languishing in prison, knowing this night will probably be their last. Tomorrow, death by crucifixion awaits.
Pilate considers how best to maintain Jerusalem, while excitement runs high during the feast of the Passover.
Caiaphas is quietly confident he can deal with the problem of Jesus now that they have an informer within the ranks of Jesus' closest disciples. He's already decided that Jesus is too much of a threat to the peace, and that it's better that one man die for the people.
Jesus and his disciples are gathered in the upper room of a house, sharing the Passover meal together.
Thursday, 7 p.m. Jesus surprises everyone, as he often did, by taking on the role of a servant and washing the disciples' feet. When it comes to his turn to have his feet washed, Peter protests at first, but then allows Jesus to serve him in this way. Jesus makes it clear it is about more than being clean on the outside. And then he adds ominously,
Not every one of you is clean.
Not every one of you is clean. Now, Jesus wasn't suggesting that one of the disciples hadn't had a wash recently, that there was a bit of a bad smell or something around. Jesus is talking about something quite different than having a face or hands that aren't clean. The Bible talks a lot about how there are things that make us spiritually unclean. When we reject God and his perfect plan for us, we fall short of his perfect standard, and it makes us unclean on the inside. This is what the Bible calls sin, and it's something that separates us from a perfect God. The Bible says that all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. We were all made perfect in the beginning in the image of God, but then we're all stained by sin. Take a moment now to just reflect on those times when you've gone your own way rather than God's way.
Thursday, 8 p.m.
After Jesus had said this, he was deeply troubled and declared openly,
I'm telling you the truth. One of you is going to betray me.
The disciples looked at one another, completely puzzled about whom he meant. One of the disciples, the one whom Jesus loved, was sitting next to Jesus. Simon Peter motioned to him.
Ask him whom he is talking about.
So that disciple moved closer to Jesus' side.
Who is it, Lord? I will dip some bread in the sauce and give it to him. He is the man.
So he took a piece of bread, dipped it, and gave it to Judas, the son of Simon Iscariot. As soon as Judas took the bread, Satan entered into him.
Hurry. And do what you must.
None of the others at the table understood why Jesus said this to him. Since Judas was in charge of the money bag, some of the disciples thought that Jesus had told him to go and buy what they needed for the festival, or to give something to the poor. Judas accepted the bread and went out at once.
After Judas left, Jesus took bread, and when he had given thanks, he broke it and gave it to his disciples, saying,
"Take and eat. This is my body."
Then he took a cup, and when he had given thanks, he gave it to them, saying,
"Every one of you drink this. This is my blood, which is the new agreement that God makes with his people. This blood is poured out for many to forgive their sins. I tell you this, I will not drink of this fruit of the vine again until the day when I drink it new with you in my Father's kingdom."
Then they sang a hymn together and went out of the city to the Mount of Olives. Thursday, 10 p.m. The meal has now ended, and Jesus and his disciples have gone to a place they often go to talk and pray. Jesus tells them,
"Tonight you will all fall away on account of me."
and he quotes a prophecy from the Old Testament prophet Zechariah.
"I will strike the shepherd, and the sheep will be scattered."
Peter, who always seems to have something to say, speaks up.
Even if everyone else lets you down, I never will.
Jesus answers him,
"I tell you the truth, this very night before the rooster crows, you will disown me 3 times.
midnight. Judas arrives at the garden together with a large crowd armed with swords and clubs, sent from the high priest. He signals to them which one in the group is Jesus, and the armed men step forward to arrest him.
Simon Peter reaches for his sword that he had brought with him. He draws it out and lashes out, cutting off the ear of a servant of the high priest.
"No more of this. Put your sword away. Do you think I cannot call on my Father in heaven, and he would at once send 72,000 angels to help me?"
Jesus touches the servant's ear and heals it. Then the armed men seize Jesus and lead him away.
Friday, 2 a.m.
Simon Peter and another disciple followed Jesus. That other disciple was well known to the high priest, so he went with Jesus into the courtyard of the high priest's house, while Peter stayed outside by the gate. Then the other disciple went back out, spoke to the girl at the gate, and brought Peter inside.
Aren't you also one of the disciples of that man?
No, I'm not.
Friday, 4 a.m. Jesus stands before Caiaphas and some of the other religious leaders. They have to find a legal case against Jesus to take him before the Sanhedrin. They have to find some legal case against him. They have called to meet at daybreak. Even though Caiaphas knows he is breaking the legal rules, he is determined to achieve his objective. People come forward to testify against Jesus, but basically, they are just making things up. Nothing is said that can condemn Jesus to death. For his part, Jesus remains silent. Finally, Caiaphas says to him,
"I put you on oath by the living God. Tell us if you are the Messiah, the Son of God."
Jesus answers,
"I am."
Then Caiaphas tears his robe and says,
"What further witnesses do we need? What is your judgment?"
the onlooking group of religious leaders agree.
He deserves death.
They then spit in his face and begin to hit him.
Friday, 4:30 a.m.
Peter was still standing there, keeping himself warm. So the others said to him, "Aren't you also one of the disciples of that man?"
No, I am not.
But Peter denied it. One of the high priest's slaves, a relative of the man whose ear Peter had cut off, spoke up.
Didn't I see you with him in the garden?
No.
And at once, a rooster crowed.
Friday morning, 7 a.m. The sun has risen, and what the condemned men in the prison expect will be their last day on earth. It's not just the fact that they will die, but that they face death by crucifixion, which occupies their minds.
Judas, seeing Jesus is going to be condemned to death, is filled with remorse for betraying Jesus. He throws the money that he'd been given back into the temple, then goes outside the city and commits suicide by hanging himself.
The high priest and the elders have brought Jesus to Pilate, demanding he be put to death. But Pilate is not convinced. He takes Jesus aside to question him.
Pilate went back into the palace and called Jesus.
Are you the king of the Jews?
Does this question come from you? Or have others told you about me?
Do you think I'm a Jew? It was your own people and the chief priests who handed you over to me. What have you done?
My kingdom does not belong to this world. If my kingdom belonged to this world, my followers would fight to keep me from being handed over to the Jewish authorities. No. My kingdom does not belong here.
Are you a king, then?
You say that I am a king. I was born and came into the world for this one purpose: to speak about the truth. Whoever belongs to the truth listens to me.
And what is truth?
Truth. That's one of the key issues, isn't it? If all that we are considering today regarding Christianity isn't true, regarding Jesus just isn't true, if it's just a story that was made up, then we might as well just forget all about Christianity, isn't it? But if it is true, then it is of supreme importance. If it is true that Jesus' kingdom is not of this world and is the only kingdom that will last forever, then it makes a difference to our whole lives and where we're going to end up when we leave this earth. Jesus said, didn't he, that to be part of his kingdom, to be on the side of truth, we must listen to him. Previously, Jesus had said that if people listened to him and held to his teaching, then they were really his followers and they would know the truth, and the truth would set them free. Let's reflect for a moment. If all of this about Jesus is true, are you letting it have an impact on your life? Are you on the side of truth, listening to Jesus in everything? Do you know what it means to be set free by him?
Friday, 7:30 a.m. After his interview with Jesus, Pilate is rattled and reluctant to put Jesus to death. Then he sees a possible way out. He learns that Jesus is from Galilee. That's the region that Herod Antipas is responsible for. And it just so happens Herod is right here in Jerusalem. Pilate sends Jesus to Herod, who is very glad for the opportunity. He has often wanted to meet Jesus, the miracle worker. He hopes that Jesus will perform some sort of miracle for him. He questions Jesus for some time, but Jesus says nothing. Herod and his soldiers begin to mock Jesus, and they put a robe on him and send him back to Pilate.
Friday, 8 a.m. Suddenly, the prisoners waiting in prison hear an uproar from a nearby courtyard. The crowd are shouting a name.
Barabbas! Barabbas!
Barabbas, despite being a hardened criminal, was probably fearing for his life, wondering why the crowd was so angry at him. He was already due to be crucified. What more could they do to him?
Pilate is convinced that Jesus is innocent of any crime and thinks he has found a way out of his dilemma. It is the custom at the festival to let one prisoner go free. He decides to offer the people a choice.
Whom do you want me to release for you? Barabbas or Jesus, who is called Christ?
The chief priests and the elders act quickly. They persuade the crowd to ask for Barabbas and have Jesus put to death. Pilate says to them again,
Which of the two do you want me to release for you?
and they shout,
Barabbas! Barabbas!
Then what shall I do with Jesus?
and the cry comes back,
Crucify him! Crucify him!
Pilate sees he is cornered. But what is it to him anyway if they reject their king? Reluctantly, he gives the order for Barabbas to be released and delivers Jesus over to be crucified.
Friday, 9 a.m. The soldiers take charge of Jesus. He's made to carry his own cross out to the place of the skull, which in Aramaic is called Golgotha. There, he is nailed to the wooden cross and left to die. He isn't the only one to die that day. 2 thieves are placed either side of him, with Jesus in the middle. Pilate prepares a notice that reads, Jesus of Nazareth, the King of the Jews. The soldiers attach it to the top of the cross, and many see and read the sign because where Jesus was crucified is near the city.
Friday, 9:30 a.m. As Jesus hangs on the cross, he calls out,
Father, forgive them, for they don't know what they are doing.
Friday, 10:30 a.m. Leading priests and teachers of the religious law mock Jesus.
Ha, he saved others, but he can't save himself. Friday, 11 a.m. One of the criminals who hangs there hurls insults at him. Aren't you the Christ? Save yourself and us. But the other criminal rebukes him.
Don't you fear God since you were under the same sentence? We are punished justly, for we are getting what our deeds deserve. But this man has done nothing wrong. Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom.
Jesus answers him.
I tell you the truth. Today, you will be with me in paradise.
Paradise, heaven, According to Jesus, heaven is real and it will be paradise. He's saying that this life is not all that there is. There is something after this life, and we have the possibility of being in heaven one day with him. Jesus told the thief that he was going to go there, all because he called out to Jesus to save him. The Bible promises that heaven is going to be the most incredible place where people will be able to live face to face with God. In heaven, the Bible tells us that God will wipe every tear from our eyes, and there will be no more death or mourning or crying or pain. Everything will be made new and everything will be perfect. But of course, the crucial question is, when your time on earth comes to an end, are you sure you will be in paradise? Take a moment now to think on that.
Friday, 11:30 a.m. John is standing near the cross, next to Mary, the mother of Jesus. Jesus tells John to look after Mary like she is his own mother.
Friday, 12 noon. A strange and unexpected darkness covers the land. Jesus cries out in an anguished voice,
My God, why have you forsaken me?"
The darkness covers the land for 3 hours.
Friday, 3 p.m. Jesus knows that everything he came to do has been accomplished. He cries out,
"It is finished."
It is finished. Jesus didn't say, "I am finished." No, Jesus wasn't finished. But he had accomplished the work that he was sent to do. The word he used was actually a word used in the marketplace, meaning the debt is paid. But what had been paid? What had Jesus accomplished through his death on the cross?
Right in the center of the temple in Jerusalem is a place called the Holy of Holies. For the Jews, it represented where the presence of God resided. In front of the Holy Holies is a giant curtain as thick as a man's hand, hanging from floor to ceiling. It represents the barrier between sinful man and a holy God. At the exact time Jesus cries, "It is finished," the curtain tears in two from top to bottom.
The barrier between sinful man and a holy God had been removed. Jesus had paid the penalty for our sins in full, and the curtain was torn to show that anyone who belongs to him can now enter into the presence of God at any time.
Friday, 4 p.m. Pilate has given an order that the legs of the men crucified should be broken so they die quickly and not remain on the cross on the Sabbath day. John is an eyewitness to what happens.
But when they came to Jesus, they saw that he was already dead, so they did not break his legs. One of the soldiers, however, plunged his spear into Jesus' side. And at once, blood and water poured out. The one who saw this happen has spoken of it, so that you may also believe. What he said is true, and he knows that he speaks the truth.
There's that word again, truth. John, the closest of Jesus' disciples, wrote, "I was there, I saw it, I know it is true."
Friday, 5:30 p.m. Jesus is buried in the tomb of a man called Joseph of Arimathea. Some women who are followers of Jesus are there and make a note of where the body has been placed.
As night falls, the 24 hours that was to change the world comes to an end. But that, of course, as we know, was not the end of the story. Jesus died and was buried in a tomb, but it didn't stay that way. 3 days later, the tomb was empty. Peter and John were among the first to see the empty tomb. Later on Sunday and many times after that, Peter and John and the other disciples saw him alive. It wasn't long before they all began spreading the news that Jesus, who had died, had now risen from the dead. But what does the 24 hours that we have looked at when Jesus died mean to us today? Why was it 24 hours that changed the world? We can go a long way to understanding it if we go back to the two thieves who died either side of Jesus. It's been called the Great Exchange. Jesus, the Son of God, is crucified between two thieves. They are lawbreakers facing the harsh penalty of death for their crimes. But Jesus is an innocent man. In fact, he was innocent of doing anything wrong. Peter, who had spent 3 years with him, later wrote, he committed no sin. That's quite a massive statement, isn't it? No sin, not one wrong word, one wrong thought, one wrong action, totally and utterly clean. But then something happened on that cross. Something that made all the difference for the dying thief and can make all the difference for you and me today. When darkness covered the earth, something was happening that we could not see with our own human eyes. Again, Peter explains it in a letter he wrote later on. He himself bore our sin in his body on the cross, so that we might die to sin and live for righteousness. By his wounds you have been healed. All my rebellion, all the things that make me unclean, Jesus took them on himself, in order to make a way for us to be made clean on the inside. He went to the cross to take our punishment in our place. He bore the wounds so that we could be healed. But it isn't something that's automatic. There were two thieves that day, either side of Jesus, and only one of them was told that he was going to be in paradise. They both lived similar lives, probably done similar things. So what made the difference for that one thief at the end of his life? Let's look again at their interaction with Jesus as they were there. One of the criminals who hung there hurled insults at him. "Aren't you the Messiah?" he said. "Save yourself and us." The first thief just thought of himself, and with his dying breaths decided to continue on as he'd gone throughout his life and just hurled insults at Jesus. But the second thief, he saw something different as he looked at the man hanging on the cross next to him. I really don't know what that was. We don't know if he ever heard Jesus teaching the crowds of thousands all about God. We don't know if he ever saw Jesus perform any amazing and incredible miracles. Maybe all he'd seen of Jesus was Jesus here in agony and in weakness, in suffering and in pain. He saw no golden crown, no glory, no majesty, no power and no sign of might. But yet, as he looked at Jesus hanging on that cross, he recognized who Jesus was and what he could do. And so as he turned to the other criminal, the other side, he rebuked him. And he said, "Don't you fear God, since you are under the same sentence? We are punished justly, for we are getting what our deeds deserve, but this man has done nothing wrong." As we think of his words, we can see that he thought of God. Maybe even for the first time since he'd been a young child in the synagogue. He then thought of his own sin and how he was being punished justly for what he'd done. Then he thought of Jesus. And he saw him for who he truly was and realized that he didn't deserve to be on the cross that day. Then he did the only thing that he could do in the situation he was in. He cried out to Jesus, "Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom." He was just about to die. There was nothing that he could do to save himself. There was no other route available to him. But he recognized that Jesus was king, and he asked him to save him. Everyone else saw Jesus defeated on the cross. But the thief saw that Jesus was really sat upon his throne, and that through his death he was going to bring about his kingdom. And how does Jesus respond to him? Does Jesus ask him how much he'd gone to the synagogue when he was younger? Did he ask him if he'd been baptized by John in the River Jordan? Did he speak to him about whether he'd lived a good life or not? No. Jesus saw the thief crying out to him to be saved. And he said the most amazing words that thief was ever going to hear in his whole entire life. Truly I tell you, today you will be with me in paradise. Jesus promised him that very day he would be with him in paradise. Do you know, when we stand before the gates of heaven and are asked why we should be let in, if we answer in the first person, because I, then we've missed the whole point. The only way that we can get to heaven is the same way that the thief did. All because of what Jesus did for us on that cross. On that cross, Jesus took our wrong, our sin upon himself. And he said that for anyone who cries out to him to be saved, just like that thief did, then he will give us his perfect life in exchange. This is the greatest exchange that there has ever been. We offer him our filth and our shame, and he gives us his perfect record, his perfect life instead. He gives us life and life to the full here, a place in his family and a place with him forever in eternity in heaven. When the thief stood before the gates of heaven, the only answer he could give as to why he should be let in is because the man on the middle cross said that I could come. And that is the only way that any one of us can get to heaven, because the man on the middle cross has said that we can come. I wonder tonight, have you called out to Jesus to save you like that thief did? Has the man on the middle cross said that you can be with him in heaven forevermore? If not, then I want to encourage you this evening to know that God is inviting you into that new life with him today. He wants you to know the best life ever here, and to know that one day you'll be part of his family forever. He doesn't promise that there won't be troubles here, but he promises that he will be with you every single day. And what does he require of you to know that? What he requires from you is a heartfelt yes. Saying yes to God is about saying sorry for living life your way and leaving him out of your life. Saying yes is about thanking God for sending Jesus to die on the cross so that you can be forgiven. Saying yes to God is about turning away from living life your way and with his help, living life his way. It's like you're saying a big yes to God. And if that's you this evening, then why don't you say that yes to God right now? Not out loud, but just in the stillness and the quietness of your own heart. And if you've done that, then I encourage you, come and speak to me afterwards. Tell me that you were a big yes this evening, and I'll give you a little book and talk to you about how we can help you with the next steps in your journey as you trust in Jesus. But it may be that you're here tonight and you're saying, I'm not ready for that big yes to God just yet. I know that there's things in my life that need to be dealt with, but I'm still not fully sure about God and about Christianity. But you know you need to look into it. You know you need to find out what it's really all about. And if you're in that place this evening, I want to encourage you to make an intentional decision to do that. You might not be a big yes, but you might be able to say, well, actually, I feel I'm a little yes. You might just be saying that to God, or you might just be saying it to yourself in the stillness and quietness of your own heart. And if that's you tonight, then I want to encourage you, again, just come and speak to me afterwards. And I can talk to you about meeting up with someone, to read through a bit of the Bible that talks about Jesus' life, to find out who Jesus really is and how much he loves you. Or it may be that you're here tonight and you're saying, well, I'm not ready to say a big yes, and I don't even feel I'm a little yes. But I wonder if I can ask you to remain open-minded this evening. It's like you're saying, well, maybe there is something in this. Maybe there is something in what Jesus did on that cross on that first Good Friday. It's like you're saying a healthy maybe. And a healthy maybe is a willingness to stay open-minded about God and Christianity, and maybe choose to look into it. And if you're willing to do that this evening, then I'll encourage you, if you're the healthy maybe, then just have a look. There's some shelves at the back and on the side with some books in them there. And just go and grab one of the books out of there. Take it away and have a little read to find out a little bit more. And if you're not sure what book would be best, just come and chat with me, and I'll love to tell you which one might be best for you. But as we come to an end this evening, I just want to thank you so much for joining us on this Good Friday evening. As we've had a look at what we all here at New Life truly believe, isn't it? That this day, that very first Good Friday, was 24 hours that changed the world. Because on that day, Our Savior Jesus came to die on the cross for each and every one of us so that we can know new life with him forevermore. So thank you for joining us. I hope that it has been a different and interesting way of retelling that story. I hope you've enjoyed it this evening. I hope it's made you think a little bit and reflect a bit on what Jesus did for us. But don't rush off. Stick around. We've got tea and coffee. James has got a big pile of hot cross buns. He's willing to give you lots and lots of them. So please stick around for those. Stick around and have a chat as well and everything else. So thank you so much for joining us this evening. Thank you.